Hello, Not Manly here. Welcome back to episode 26 of Kerbal Space Program. When we last left the Gilly Surveyor, dropped off by the Razor Force 7, we were getting ready to eject it out to Gilly. But we found out that we did not quite have enough Delta V to do the insertion up at Gilly. But I decided to try this anyway because I came up with a cunning plan to capture this survey scanner in Gilly orbit. And no, we're not going to actually send a Purple out to get out and push. I have an even better idea. We've got the Gilly refueler in roughly an equatorial, if considerably inclined orbit, and we're going to have the survey satellite rendezvous with it, if we can manage it. Although we've only got 600 and something. Let's try that again. When I get through all the maneuvers, we only had 627 meters per second, and I ended up doing the insertion as best as I could with like 626.9 meters per second. You'll see that coming up in a moment. I'm just trying to plan this out to see if I can get away with it without having to rely on my cunning plan. And as it turns out, no, we can't do it. In fact, the center of thrust on this craft is actually off-center somewhat, so we are going to end up spending Delta V just to keep the thing pointed straight. There it is. We got 627 meters per second, and that insertion is 626.9. It is not enough to capture at Gilly, but I've got a cunning plan, as I've said. Here we are. This is the Gilly refueler here, lining up to try to get matching orbital planes with the Gilly survey satellite inbound. That's part one. We're going to make sure that we can at least rendezvous with the survey craft. Part 2 of the plan involves sending Natalorf out to rendezvous with the Gilly refueler, and eventually with both craft at once. The refueler has an EVA transfer pipe attached, and an engineer can attach a pipe between two separate craft and transfer resources from one craft to the other. This is not like Kerbal attachment system where you end up making one craft out of two with a pipe. No, this is actually keeping the two crafts separate. It's a little more stable, at least in my opinion. It's much like the EVA struts that D-Magic has. Now, Natalorf is in for a very, very long spacewalk. You think Zelmore had a hard time spending 30 minutes out on an EVA? Well, Natalorf here is going to be spending quite a long time once she rendezvous with the Gilly refueler. And she knows she's going to be bored, so she asks Mission Control for clearance to get into some idle chit-chat. We got some time to wait for anyway, so Jean is like, okay, let's patch you through the Valentina. And the two of them catch up on a few things. They're going to be meeting in a moment anyway. In the meantime, here is the Gilly survey satellite with its not quite enough Delta V to do an orbital insertion, but hey, you'll get to see what comes up next. I've got the thrust turned down a bit so that I can maintain some control. Again, the center of thrust is a little off-center because of that antenna hanging off of one side there. I'll have to remember to put two antennas or something next time to try to keep the thing balanced. But hey, it's holding together for now, and for what we need to do, we don't need to worry too much about the center of balance of this craft. Try to get a little closer to Gilly periapsis, try to maximize the insertion courtesy of the Oberth effect. And we just start to close our orbit, and then the engine flames out. Now it's up to the refueler. With the extra relay satellites we have above Gilly, we have no problem maintaining control of this craft. And we try to attempt a rendezvous with the Gilly survey craft. And I'm looking at this and I'm having a real hard time. I can't seem to get the intersect here. Right, and I'm trying and I try again. Wait a minute, we're like only 10 kilometers out. I should be able to see the reticle for this craft. So I zoom out and I go take a look. Sure enough, there it is. I should be able to brute force this. There we go. Let's just turn this around. There we go. We'll push the retrograde marker toward the target marker, just like we do for our other rendezvous. And we should get close enough that we can kind of eyeball it the rest of the way. There we go. We're still not seeing an intersect. But maybe we don't need to see an intersect as long as we can get close enough to this craft. Come on. Gene's controllers over at Mission Control are paying really close attention to this. We've actually got a direct connection to Eve right now, which is pretty fortunate because if we lost connectivity right now, that would mess up this rendezvous considerably, and then we'd be lost. Or at least it would take a while, but we'd just drift away from Gilly before we could try again, if nothing else. There we go. We're getting pretty close, so now we're going full thrust, trying to reduce our target speed there. There we go. A mere 14 meters per second. We try to line up a little better. Once we get these crafts lined up, we'll kind of park them next to each other. So now you're about to see part 3 of my cunning plan. What we're going to do is we are going to point the refueler at the survey probe's rocket nozzle there. We've got the survey probe pointed per orbit retrograde, and it'll stay there. So now we're just going to give it a little nudge. I believe this has been called the Pardo push. This is not unlike pushing with a purple with an EVA pack, but that spark liquid fuel engine is a little stronger than an EVA pack engine, so we should be a little easier going with this. There we go. Gentle little tap there. Boop. Oh, target speed changed rather abruptly there. I think we made contact. Yeah, we made contact there. And no, don't get any funny ideas if you're thinking what I think you're thinking. We're just trying to get the survey craft captured in Gilly orbit. We're being really gentle with the thrust here. Don't get any other ideas of what you think this looks like. Shame on you. Anyways, gentle push, gentle push. We get a little closer, little closer. Little closer, little closer. Any harder and I think we would end up pushing ourselves out of alignment and be spinning out of control, maybe breaking solar panels. Just a little closer. There we go. Apoapsis is becoming above zero. There we go. We are captured above Gilly. It's a pretty high Gilly orbit, pretty high elliptical orbit. So we're going to try to reduce our apoapsis some, make things a little easier. That was the hard part though. If we can get this thing under to a somewhat circularized orbit, then we've got part 3 of our cunning plan complete. There we go, 142, 141, 130, 120, just a little more. We're not doing too bad there. Look at that. Come on, just a little closer. I've already got this going like, well, I had it going 4 times regular speed. 45 by 27, we're almost there. 40, 39, 38, come on, we're almost there. 34, 33, 32, and I stop right there thinking that's good enough. You know, 33 by 25, we're doing okay there. Now comes part 4 of my cunning plan. we switch over to Natalorf Kerman, who has been left alone for a little bit. She's been drifting in space now for about 5 hours, catching up with Valentina, and it turns out that Natalorf and Valentina has come up with a plan of their own. But before they can do that plan, she has to come out here and do this plan. She comes and rendezvous with the Gilly Survey sat, and then we bring the refueler a little closer. We have that EVA transfer pipe connector facing facing the survey craft. Now it's up to Natalorf. These two craft are close enough that she can pick up one end of that pipe, hook it up to the other end. There we go, hook it up to the other craft. And now we're going to send some resources across. Oxidizer and liquid fuel. There we go. Now we've got way too much delta V. We don't need 1.3 kilometers per second for this, so we end up transferring a good chunk of it back. We only need like, a few hundred, 400 meters per second is plenty. But hey, now that this craft has been topped up, we can cut that pipe out. We can send the surveyor into its polar orbit and we can complete the survey. Finally, we'll be able to figure out where the best mining spots are above Gilly, and we will finally complete our Gilly base contract. Way to go, Natalorf! Your cunning plan has been a success. Now we've got just one more thing we got to do. We gotta bring Natalorf back home. Or at least what passes for home right now. She's directly above the base, so all we gotta do is get to the base. Look at that. 8 hours in space. That has got to be a big major record for the Kerbal Space Program. I wonder what the records are for the real-life space program. We've had some pretty long-duration EVAs above the International Space Station, so who knows? Look at that, she still has plenty of EVA fuel. This is Gilly, so we could hop around no problem. Just a few hundred more meters just to be able to get back to her home base. Looks a little dark there. I think maybe they run out of battery power. But that's okay. Purples are a hardy bunch. They can deal with a service outage for a while. Natalorf will come and fix it. As soon as she gets back into that viewing cupola, then she can get back to work. Great job, Natalorf! You saved the Gilly Survey mission, you probably saved 2 tourist contracts, and who knows what else you helped save up there. We'll find out in a future episode. Until then, I'm not Manly. Fly safe.